Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's coffee break session, Sales and Marketing Alignment, the not-so-secret ingredient for meeting today's buyer expectations. My name is Stephanie Siemens, and I'm a Senior Digital Marketing Associate at Iron Horse. I'm really excited to introduce our two speakers for today. First, we have Uzair Dada, founder and CEO of Iron Horse. Next, we have Tennille Miller, Transformation Practice Leader at Outreach. This spring, Uzair and Tennille put on a great masterclass for the Sales Hacker community on using change management practices to make sales and marketing alignment stick. We got such a great response from that session that we decided to get these two together again. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit differently. In our recent B2B Enterprise Growth Survey, 54% of all B2B tech marketing leaders stated that marketing and sales alignment is a challenge to successfully executing or seeing returns on your integrated growth marketing programs. So today, we thought we'd dig into that data point a little bit and look at alignment in the context of a real-life scenario. So first off, Uzair, why don't you get us kicked off here? What does marketing and sales alignment around growth even mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we all get excited about big terms like change management and alignment, but we never always dispel kind of what it really is. So to me, I think it's like 3 or 4 things. One is it's really alignment at all levels. It's not just leadership. It's not just middle management or sort of managers or senior sales reps. It's really thinking about alignment across the board at all levels of the organization, between sales and marketing people, and making sure that whatever they're doing is sort of enabled. Second is it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There are different people who have different personalities and different personas that need to be dealt with and managed and worked with in a different way. Third is sort of it needs to be sustained. Like I think we talked about it in the last discussion, and we'll I think talk about more today. It's a marathon and it's not a sprint. So you really need to make sure you enable and make sure you put processes and governance frameworks in place that allow you to think about, is it working? Is it not working? What do I do to change? And I think that's some of the stuff that would be great to hear from Tennille as to what they're doing. But yeah, I'd say like those are the core ingredients that we should be thinking about. But most importantly, the biggest area that I think that people misconstrue is it's an alignment between a CMO and CRO, and it goes way beyond that.
Right. Tennille, can you give us your take on change management and why it's important here?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I live, eat, breathe, and sleep change management, but it's important specifically for this topic because, to your point, if we don't have change management or change management principles in place, it's not going to happen naturally. It's not a natural fit. You would think it would be, you'd want it to be, but it's not. And so we need to actually do that upfront work ahead of time, be deliberate about it, and how we kind of pull in some of those change management levers like leaders and messaging and other alignment activities. And so I think that for this question specifically, it needs to be a focus.
Yeah, great. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to look at what this looks like in a real life scenario. So we're going to put up our first audience poll, and your answers will kind of drive where this conversation will go. So here's the scenario. A lead comes in, and you get on that first call with them, and they say, I already know about you. Can we talk about pricing? What do you do? So your answer choices are A, ask about their needs and buying team. B, ask your BANT questions and schedule time with an AE. Or C, go ahead and give them the demo and share high-level pricing. Uzair, while people are answering, what's going on here with these choices?
Yeah, I love this question because I think this is such a huge source of frustration for people. And it'd be kind of cool to see what the audience thinks. But I think there is a kind of a tension between, do we focus on the customer or do we focus on the process? And I think it'd be interesting to see what people say. I know I have my guesses of what reality is, but I'd love to see sort of what the audience does and what they have seen in the market.
Yeah, so it looks like from who has answered so far, the vast majority are going with A, ask about their needs and their buying team. So Uzair, Tennille, any responses to that?
Yeah, so I think I think if you think about the world today, and I think we had touched on this a bit before, it's become highly digital. It's got much more digital interactions than just physical interactions. The number of interactions has increased. The number of channels where people are seeking information during the buying cycle has increased. As a result, me as a prospect of a buying team or a person in a buying team at an enterprise coming to a company is much more informed about the solution I'm looking at, about how the solution works. I actually know the pricing because I've talked to my peers in communities. So I actually know a lot before I come to you. I don't come to you to learn about you. I come to you to sort of finalize the transaction in a lot of cases. But the way we do things today and the way the sales processes are set up is that lead usually comes to an SDR. That love that soul probably has invested time in learning and training and going through an A, B, C, D, E process of understanding the people's needs, who is in the process, do you have the budget, what is your need, yada, yada. Yet when I come to you, I'm saying, hey, can I get pricing information because I know I'm ready to go. And then they probably likely, in most cases, will say, okay, great, I have this information. I actually can't give you that. Let me set up another meeting with an AE. And then there's the AE meeting that happens right after that. And the AE, bless his heart, will probably validate what they've learned from the SDR rather than use that information. So that you've gone through that process twice. And then, they may say, oh, generally, based on what you're saying, the pricing might be this. And God forbid I ask the awful D question, which is, can I see a demo? They're like, oh, let me see if I can get a sales engineer for our next call. So now I'm on call number 3, right? So our processes haven't evolved to support the new normal of where the prospects are in the buying process. And they're, in most organizations, not agile and flexible enough. Now, companies are seeing it. We have customers where they didn't talk about pricing and demo till call 2 or call 3, like the example I gave. And they've completely shifted to now do the demo in the first call. And they've seen their appointment rates and opportunity rates go through the roof. Why? Because they're catering to what the customer is ready with already. Mm-hmm. And I think most organizations don't do that. It'd be pretty awesome. I think maybe Tanil, you probably have something to say because you guys are enabling that bridge from marketing to sales and enabling that sales process to become more efficient with outreach. What are you all seeing?
Can you guys hear me? This platform is so funny. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because I think that what we really need to be doing here is to get marketing and sales to work together. There needs to be some sort of an impetus for it. So if I'm from marketing or if I'm from sales, why do I care? Why do I need to work together? We need to figure out, and I honestly would say this is the job of leaders. So to your point earlier, the CMO, the CRO need to be working together at the top so that they are aligned, number 1, with each other and goals. And then number 2, finding out like what is that common vision, as we talked about in our last session, that I would call like a co-elevating vision where both sides are going to get what they want, but they have to work together. So kind of leaders, a big role of theirs in this is really painting that picture for both the marketing team and the sales team as far as if you work together in these ways we're telling you or talking about, these are the wonderful benefits that we're going to see and you're both going to get what you want. But if you don't do that together, it's like the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. And so I think really painting that vision, and then of course some of the other change levers we can talk about later on, is a way to get to that point.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, Tanil, we know that this new process is a better way of doing things, but it not always happens on the ground in practice. Why is there this gap sometimes?
This is a little bit of Psych 101 here for you folks. So this is called the knowing and doing gap. This is like, let's say, for example, you want to lose weight or get healthy. I always love this example because it applies to pretty much everybody. And we all know what the right behaviors are, right? We know what to do. There's plenty of information out there. We know to eat healthy. We know to exercise. Like we know these things, right? So that's the knowing. But why do most of us not do it? There's that gap. Why do we need to hire a personal trainer? It's not that the trainer knows more than us usually. It's that we need someone to hold us accountable. We need somebody to be kind of critiquing and iterating and giving us feedback in real time on what's going on and that sort of thing. And so the knowing and doing gap is extremely common. And so getting around that, and like I said, there's a lot of change management principles that come into play when I go into an organization and we're implementing outreach or some other change, is getting over that knowing and doing gap and getting further on into, besides just knowing it at an intellectual level, what we should do, we need to know why we should be doing it, how it's going to benefit us, what the impacts are going to be, erasing any uncertainty around, oh, well, if I start doing this new thing, partnering with marketing or using a new platform or whatever it is, I need to feel confident and secure in how that changes me, right? So that means I need to be enabled. I need to know, again, the why behind it. I need to be held accountable. I need to have all these, any emotional baggage or friction or resistance that's happening in my brain as far as this change. I need to have all that mitigated. So all that upfront work comes from someone who's driving change, whether it's a leader or like a change manager or that type of thing. So I'll pause there because that was a little bit of a tangent, but I think the knowing and doing gap applies to everything. It's a matter of getting outside of our head, because that's the knowing, getting into our hearts, getting into our souls, whatever you want to call it, and kind of getting to some of those other pieces that will actually compel us to want to make that change versus just knowing we're supposed to do it.
Right. All right. So let's shift gears a little bit and turn to our marketing folks. So let's talk about how marketing can best support the sales team. Let's go into our second audience poll. What is marketing doing at your organization to support your sales team? In other words, how are you partnering beyond the lead handoff? Are you A, sending a playbook for emails and sequences like drafted copy, lists to reach out to, etc.? After webinars and events, providing them a list of ICP attendees, holding regular meetings and check-ins to talk about active campaigns or opportunities, training the team on your intent platform, or none of the above? I hope it's not none of the above. All right, while people are answering, can you talk us through these support functions?
Yeah, I mean, like, to me, I think what is awesome is if you think of the best organizations where marketing and sales enablement teams and sales op teams are kind of completely intertwined and connected, it's just seamless. And I think there's, especially now in today's world where I think the field marketing teams that used to be very event-centric are becoming much more like sales enablement teams, because their goal is to make sure the lead process is smooth from lead gen to the handoffs to the sales team, and then making sure the sales team has what they need on a continuous basis. So I think some of the choices we had, good marketing teams are doing all that and then some. I mean, they're truly making sure that their counterpart peers have all that information so that there is no ambiguity and they can sort of drive that personalized follow-up using platforms like Outreach.
Yeah, great. And it looks like from our responses, we've got a good mix. No one said none of the above. So kudos to our audience today. All right, for Tennille, so Outreach teaches people to do things in a new way. How do you ensure that people are actually following this new process? And do you need to have a different approach for a different type of employee? For example, an incoming salesperson versus a seasoned employee?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean,
I would put it non-PC, old guard versus new guard, right? So like there's
yeah,
right.
Well, so that's a lot of the work that comes from a change perspective, and forgive me, but I'm approaching this from my perspective because that's what I'm doing. And so in that regard, when we come in from an outreach perspective, from a change perspective, we're doing a lot of that upfront work ahead of time that I mentioned. So to your point, knowing who these stakeholders are, what type, the salesperson, the manager, any other teams that are involved that are going to be touched by this implementation or by any change we're doing, we need to understand them on a persona level. So salespeople, marketing specifically, think about the way that you approach customer experience. It's very similar in that way. We journey map, we do impact assessment, we find out the benefits, points of friction, all that stuff, so that we really know the people that we're trying to change their behavior with. And so in that regard, we do all that upfront work ahead of time. And then we figure out from there, okay, so what do they need to do what we need them to do, right? So it's employing a lot of those psychological principles. And then again, all the different levers that I mentioned from a change perspective with the vision, making sure leaders are setting the tone for this and actually helping their people understand why this is so important. That's another one. Managers and leaders holding their people accountable, coaching in one-on-ones, using outreach, for example, if that's the change we're talking about. And then really when you think about it though, then there's also the measuring of those behaviors and the metrics that we want to see. That's number one, because if we're not measuring, and we're not holding people accountable, why would they do it? Unless they happen to see the value on their own, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In addition to that, there's like publicizing and kind of keeping that conversation of storytelling, success stories of people that are doing well when they're using it. And then continuing to sustain that message, right? So it doesn't just stop once we implement a platform or make a change and we kind of quote, go live. That needs to sustain and be ongoing and be part of the conversation. And you need to build it into systems that are already in the organization or in the team. So for example, if you have certain bonuses based on X, Y, or Z, or incentives, or certain policies, or current ways of working, or whatever, you want to embed any kind of change, like using outreach or any kind of other change we're talking about. Whatever you want to see, you have to measure it and embed it in those systems, because then they're operationalized, then they're reinforced by the organization. And it's almost like you're designing the environment to help deliver the change that you want to see.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see, like, what's your thought on carrot or a stick, or carrot and a stick? Because to me, part of it is, yes, I need to have buy-in, say, this is the way, this is the new way we're going to do things. But there still takes resistance to change that exists, right? And then I think you need to create a sense of FOMO. And by creating examples of, hey, my God, XYZ person just killed it because they used ABC. I want to be like them, right? Versus when I was saying the old guard is like, well, I've been successful. I've been going to club every year. Why do I need to do this bullshit, right? It's sort of like I just don't need to do it because my way works, and I don't need to do anything else because I'm sort of a little bit of a know-it-all. I'm too overconfident. But even there, sort of like, hey, you could be so much more. You could do so much more. Or you're saying, by bringing this in, actually my measurement goals have changed because we think we can do better. So no, yes, you're good for now, but where we need to go, you're not as good. And so to do that, we're enabling you and we're giving you the resources you need to be even better. I think it's a combination of those things, and sort of a blend of approach, as you were saying, in an organization to see what works for whom. I think a combination of those rightly done is successful on a sustained basis.
Yes, and I love that you brought that up, because a lot of people think there's like one way or two ways to do change. We've just touched on 4 ways, right? Yeah. There's more than that, even beyond that. There's carrots and sticks. There's command and control. There's push versus pull. You've talked about 4 of those 6 right there. And then there's a bunch of other ones. And so to exactly that point, when I come in and we do this, that's why we spend so much time understanding the people we're trying to change up front. So to understand, will it be more effective based on the culture or based on that persona if we do the push versus pull, if we do the command and control? Because some cultures it does work. We have enterprise clients where they are like, nope, we do command and control. It's all we do here. Other clients where it's the opposite, where we have to actually start on the bottom, and the more junior employees are the ones who actually influence the more senior ones. And so to your point, a way to get around that is spending the time up front to be deliberate about what exactly you're trying to do, knowing who you're trying to change, knowing what works and doesn't work in the environment they're in as well. And then also, I would say one thing you can never go wrong with is as much co-creation as possible. So you're doing it with them, not to them, and you're iterating on it as you go based on what's working.
Do you find you need, for it to stick, you need embedded change agents at all levels?
I don't think so. I don't think level is the right word there, because think about it. Back in the day, yes, that would be great. But now our organizations are much more networked in nature, not level-based, even though some leaders think they are level-based. They're actually more networked. That's how the stuff really gets done, and where the influence really happens is a network. So I don't think you need people at all levels, but you need it to be the important touch points. So for example, let's say the most influential people are people that are working on this project and they live in this location. Those are the people you want to tap into. So you got to, again, it's a lot of that upfront work, but it really, then the change just happens and you don't have to do anything with it.
No, but I was talking about like a sales rep, SDR, AE, SDR, manager, director, VP.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So
each one has a role. Yes.
Exactly. So I think they to ensure they have the right tooling. Yes. They have the right governance frameworks to make sure that they can manage their teams and give them the right answers or coach them the right way. Because if I just do it here at the bottom and don't do it up top, it falls apart because there's no enforcement, right? You sort of need to do it in the entire pyramid stack to make sure that each level or role has the right set of training and framework to make sure governance and change happens.
Exactly. Yep. I misunderstood your question, but yes, each one does have a role. So for example, at Outreach, one of our best practices is when we're implementing the platform or driving any change, the CRO / CMO in this case or whatever, we would ask them to record a short video or to kick off training, for example. So it's not a big ask of the leaders, but the emails come from them, that sort of thing, but then at the manager level, it's more like, make sure you're using the platform to coach your people in your one-on-one, that sort of thing. So yes, every level does have a role. That is for sure. Yep.
Awesome. All right, you two, we are nearing the end of our session already. Uzair, why don't you get us kicked off with some parting advice, and then we'll hand over to Tennille.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing I would say is if sales and marketing leaders need to embrace the new normal. The world has changed. You have to adapt. You have to change, and you have to do that and throw out the mentality of us versus them as two functional areas, and really embrace we are partners in growth. And what do we need to do to make each other successful? Each side has tremendous amount of information and insight that makes the other side better. But yet we sort of function in our own silos and don't share that information critically. If we sort of came together to say, wow, if I had that information, I could do these other pieces so much better, and vice versa. You are all aligned to a single outcome. And I think we had talked about it, I think in the last conversation, a lot of organizations are going to a growth dashboard, which is a common dashboard between sales and marketing teams. I'm not looking at marketing metrics or sales metrics. I'm looking at a common set of things that show me success. That doesn't mean we don't have our own underpinnings of different things that feed into it. But once you get aligned to what success looks like, it's a common shared goal. And I think if you sort of enable that to happen, everything else is sort of kind of falls into place. And then the last one I think around that is sustained change management. And I think you've heard that theme today is so critical. That means at all different roles and levels, but also over time. I think if you don't have that in place, you're going to have some blips of kind of interesting success, but it will sort of die down because I think the inertia is against you if you don't have it.
Yeah, definitely. Tennille?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what you said was so right on. I would echo all of that. And I think the hard part is that from my perspective, when you're really trying to drive change in an organization, it has to start at that systemic / leadership level, right? So if you're the average marketing person, the average salesperson, it's hard for me to say to you, yeah, go co-elevate with each other. You can, and you should, but you have to have other things in place that enable it, right? And so what I'd say is as an individual marketer or salesperson that is not the CRO level, you can do a lot of good in your own sphere. So just start working and start partnering and start inviting other people to your meetings and sharing information via dashboard, whatever, just being more co-creative in that nature. And if you can, ask your leaders to start saying, hey, how can we get that higher vision that you can rally us all, under and behind so we can drive this forward in the organization.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tennille, and thank you, Uzair, for being here today. And thank you to all of you watching, our audience. If you're interested in learning more about change management or connecting with our speakers, we're posting their LinkedIns in the chat, as well as Tennille's website that has a lot of great change management resources. Thanks again to you all, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers. Thanks.